Hello, everybody. It's Mira here, and my kitty, who I'd like you to meet. He's feeling pretty lazy and snuggly today. This is Jala Moss. So I promised myself and my viewers that I was going to do a little discussion on the meaning behind my most recent song, which is called "A Fix." It feels like one of those things where I don't know where to start. I think for me, something I'm really working on as a person is developing my authentic voice. My voice has often been best utilized through music, through sound, through writing, and also through like my professional identity, because I do work during the day as a therapist. My struggle is sometimes like stepping into myself and like integrating all of those things into my being, and doing that from a place that's not like removed from my own experience and my own self, but also navigating my own boundaries and what I'm willing to just express and be open with. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. My music still really is the best way that I communicate my emotions and feelings, as well as one-on-one relationships. So I'm just not super comfortable getting into like all the details of why I've written some of my music. I've written them for self-healing. But I will share some general themes and concepts that I was working with when orchestrating this particular song called "A Fix." So I do work as an addiction counselor. Sorry, of course, people start messaging me when I do a Zoom, of course. So I work as an addiction counselor in an IOP program. I am actually working on developing a private practice soon. I'm excited about that, but also really anxious. My personal experience with addiction, when I was a teen, I would use a lot of different substances, whatever I could get my hands on for periods of time. And my preference was using stimulants. I liked how they made me feel. I liked the ego boost they gave me, the sense of self, and the sense of like I'm in control of my feelings. I'm in control of my confidence, and I can utilize them to feel like I can make connections with people. And without them, I kind of felt this sense of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not cool enough, and I'm just kind of the weird girl that really doesn't have much else going on. The stimulants allowed me to feel like I could be that weird girl that also could just enjoy being that. So I was able to discontinue those patterns as I got older, and started recognizing the problematic behaviors there. I'll also just say, on top of that what actually developed into an addiction for me was using prescribed stimulants. They weren't not initially prescribed. I was, using lots of other illicit substances and such. And I think getting prescribed this on top of it led me to start thinking that it was not problematic because it was prescribed, even though I was really misusing it and really destroying a lot of my healthy habits and healthy relationships because of it. Okay, so that was a long time ago. So that is not what my song "A Fix" is about. My song "Fix," it is, although I'm sure all addiction is really connected. It's really very similar neuronal network processes in your brain, with dopamine and other neurotransmitters, whether it's GABA or dopamine or whatnot. There are these networks in your brain that are triggered by, the reward system that's triggered by addictive patterns, addictive substances, and addictive relationships. So the addictive relationships piece is the part that I was really tuning into when writing "A Fix." Because although I have pretty self-controlled, mindful relationships with substances, I had completely gone off the rails with how I developed relationships with people, particularly people I was dating. I'm not going to get into all of that, but I'll just leave this with saying I'm doing a really good job being a fucking boring cat lady lately. And I feel like I've really worked through a lot of the some of the patterning that I was involved in. So with that said, I want to just share some pictures. Oh, one of them's like disappeared, of course, and let me find it. Shoot. Well, I'll share a different one. Actually, no, I can't minimize the screen. What the heck? Computers suck. Okay. All right, I was able to get it. So this is just a picture that I found. It looks so simple, but I think it just says so much. So how many of you guys have experienced something that may look like this healthy relationship? You're meeting kind of in the middle. Each person sees the importance and validity of the other person, and you're mutually kind of meeting each other. There's not one person trying to pull and the other pushing, and it's just you're working that out and forming a healthy state of balance in the middle. Another example of a relationship is where there's one person who it looks like this guy over here, maybe he's okay with this, he doesn't look displeased, but this person's going way out of their way to accommodate this other person who may or may not be impressed with that, but it seems to be seemingly working for the both of them. They got a little smile on their face, but what's really happening to this person's energy? Looks really draining, and it looks really hard to maintain that for that person. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And so if you didn't know, I'm actually a huge nerd, and sometimes that can be to my benefit and sometimes not. So I developed a document that further describes these types of relationships. The healthy relationship picture that we looked at earlier. Oh my goodness, what's going on with this? Let's okay. My computer's being really weird. Let's just leave it like this. Okay. Damn it. Okay. So this is an example of a healthy relationship similar to those two people meeting in the middle. If each of these squares is a person, where would you be? Would you be in this sort of even-keeled dynamic where you're each having just as much independence, just as much space for oneself, in one's own independent self-care, one's own desires, beliefs, thoughts, feelings. And then there's the other person's values, beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. In the middle space, you might find that a lot of those behaviors that you enjoy for yourself may be some things that you can share with that person. Maybe there's some things in the middle that you enjoy doing together, some conversations that you enjoy having together, some shared relationships with others and shared friendships here, some shared community that you have here in the middle. And that's healthy. In a healthy, connected relationship in your family or in your friendships or in your romantic relationships. It's also healthy to notice that there's some interest that I have that this other person doesn't have, in being able to maintain that connection and also being able to maintain your independence. If you enjoy, I don't know what you enjoy, if you enjoy coloring and your partner hates coloring books or something, you're not going to just give up that because someone else doesn't enjoy doing that. That's something you're going to continue to do on your own. You would not want a partner that's going to tell you that's stupid, you can't do that. That would be that person trying to take over your space and your own independence. So in this healthy connection, what happens is There's an equal amount of independence and connection. So both are valid. Independence is important. Connection is important. They're just as important. I will also say that values are important. You do want to have shared values. There may be some areas of value that are so valuable and important to you that you require a partner that does have those same values. In this middle area here, there will be requirements that you have for that partnership. The requirements shouldn't be that that person's identical to you. They should just be requirements that you have to maintain a healthy relationship, and that's valid. Compatibility is valid. Compatibility should not mean this person's a carbon copy of me, because that's more likely to lead towards down the path of codependency. But you do want to have enough shared experiences to merge and connect. So also in this state, both self and other is enhanced. That connection itself makes yourself grow and expand, and you grow bigger. Your world doesn't become smaller because of that connection, where you just get more myopic and more pigeonholed, and you can't do as much, you can't think as much, you can't express as much. That's a sign of codependency. A healthy connection, you start feeling expansive, you start feeling like you're growing, you may start feeling like you're healing. There is room for healing, and there is room for healing one another in a healthy relationship. However, the healing also has to be connected to your own individuated sense of self within that connection. And it's important to not rely on a partner for all of your healing needs. Just one component of that healing that you're doing, that relational healing, because healing is relational. Healing is relational. It doesn't have to be through a partner. It can be through community. It can be through many other means. But there is a valid component of genuine healing that can happen through connection, which I think some people tend to forget when they're thinking about codependency. Additionally, you should be able to move freely between those independent states and that connection. You should practice being able to connect and then stepping back. When I say stepping back, it doesn't mean that you're going to ignore that person, or you're going to decide to, I'm just going to go away for like a whole month and expect that person to still be there. No, you're going to be able to negotiate those relationship terms within yourself and them. And you're going to know that I can take a few days where I'm not really connecting to the relationship in that way, and I can know that they're still there. It's also a concept of like object permanence. So just because the person's not right there with you, you have the faith and understanding and security within yourself to know that they're still there. There's still someone that you can connect to when you need to. You don't need to get all of your needs met from this person. You can get them met by other ways. So it's healthy, again, to have that connection and to have that independence. Sometimes these relationships can seem hard to come by, right? I think they're out there, and I think it can be really vulnerable to take the risk to start getting to know people and developing these dynamics and developing the understanding of your own stuff that you need to own. So for me, I could go on and on with this. My song Affix, I'm going to stop sharing this. This goes on and on about different codependent dynamics. My song Affix was about addiction to codependency and love addiction, or addictive relationships, like I said. So these things can show up in so many different ways. One of my biggest struggles at the time this song was written and before was just short-term gratification. I need to feel good right now. Even brief periods of boredom, lack of intensity, or discomfort are unacceptable. That was probably my biggest challenge. And on the surface, that was the biggest challenge. But underneath this short-term gratification, what is really going on? What are you avoiding? Why do you need to feel good right now all the time? And is it that you're using something so hyper stimulating to feel good because you're avoiding something underneath? Are you avoiding some pain and trauma and grief that you needed to resolve? For me, that was the case. I was looking and responding to some things that were really unhealthy for me, and enabling that dynamic in other people who really were doing the same thing. Compulsive involvement, feeling the irrational need to become involved or maintain involvement in spite of knowing the predictable pain and predictable problems. How often have you done that? I've done that. That became a problem for me. I knew that somebody was not good for me. I knew I was entering into this. I can see some challenges in you. I've got faith in you because you've got some insight about it. But I think with enough love and support from me that you can change. And, but what I was doing there was putting myself in this role where I felt like I was actually somehow above and better than. And then what happens is that person starts idealizing me. And then what happens is I don't live up to those expectations in myself or to them. And they realize I'm a human being, not a spectacle, and not somebody to worship, and also not someone to fix them. And it all comes crashing down because those people that I'm trying to compulsively involve myself with or trying to fix or help, they're not ready or willing to help themselves. And if they are, that has very little or nothing to do with me. And it's also a little bit controlling to think that you can help and fix and change someone else. I want to be careful, though, not to label someone's good intentions as codependent, love addicted, or toxic, or I don't want to pathologize the innate, very sacred need to love, to connect, to be seen, to be validated, and to support and help people. I don't want to lose that part of me. I think when I live in a state of mind where I'm involved in the compulsive short-term gratification, it diminishes that part of me that genuinely cares and does want to help and support. But you cannot genuinely help and support someone when you are in those mindsets. That is counterproductive. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them go. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to demonstrate this is what self-care looks like. This is what setting a boundary and setting a need and setting an expectation looks like. Setting an expectation does not mean controlling someone. Setting an expectation means first you're identifying with your own feelings. You're identifying with your own needs in that relationship. And after you're identifying with your own needs, you do set an expectation. It's fair to give someone an opportunity to make change. It's not fair to yourself or to that person to base your whole life around them changing. What you can do is, I expect this, not in a controlling way, or this is what I need. This is what I need for myself. Is that something you can, are you on board with that? If they're not on board with that, it makes sense for you to step back and set a boundary. Boundaries can be very different. They can be flexible. They can be rigid. I don't think sometimes a rigid boundary, if that's keeping you safe, is exactly what you need. Sometimes a flexible boundary feels more gentle and feels more supportive to you. I think the best wisdom in boundaries can come from those places of flexibility. And that's something that we can struggle with as humans because we want things very black and white. We want things open or closed or black or white, but there is fluidity, and that's valid. But the most important thing is recognizing your own self-importance. You are worth taking care of. You are worth acknowledging your feelings. Do not stifle that feeling of fear that you have in you that's telling you no. Do not go up and beyond, above and beyond, to cater to someone else's to cater to someone else's feelings. Someone else's feelings are not your job to fix or change. And when you stay stuck in that, you stay stuck in a repetitive cycle of pain, where you stay in this repetitive cycle of intense high and intense pleasure, and then intense despair and lacking. That is the cycle of addiction that plays out in these types of relationships. So I could go on and on about this. That's what my song is about. It's about sitting with your own shit. I have sat with my own shit, and I've been doing my work. I'm not perfect. I've got more work to do. My work has become complex for myself because since I've done a lot of this work and stopped with the compulsion, I've really kept a lot of people away from me. I have not let somebody in. I've explored getting to know some people, though, like with a boundaried connection, and that's felt really good to me. I can share an example of a boundary connection real quick. So a boundary connection. Oh my goodness, this is all. So I mean, a boundary connection is down on the bottom. You're just getting to know someone. Professional relationships, or people you choose to have in your outer circle. So yeah, my new relationships that I've developed with other human beings the past period of time here has been a boundaried connection for the most part. I've also recognized that there are times where substances can really interfere with your ability to do that. They contribute to that cycle of addiction with codependency or relational addictions. Because when if you're drinking a lot, or I don't know, smoking a lot of cannabis, your boundaries become way more fluid than you would like them to be, or they become so rigid. You're just pushing people out or letting them all in. You're pushing people out, and so it's why I've really chosen a life of sobriety, and because I worry, for me, that it all ties in together. So I could go on and on about this, but I'm going to stop. Oh my goodness, is this still recording? This Zoom screen looks really different. Oh, it is. Okay, so I feel like I did a good job here connecting my music with my personal, with my professional. Like, this is me. This is what I do day to day. Like, I do this kind of recovery work with people. The modules I do on codependency, sometimes I don't get to do them as often as I'd like. Sometimes the modules on codependency are so intense that some of the substance users that I work with, I feel like it's not the right time for them to do that full conversation yet. But usually it is really good to talk about, at least in some respects, but it can be a really triggering and really uncomfortable thing to think about for a lot of people, including myself. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and I wish I knew how to break like a topic or video down into like one of those Instagram things that just to go on for like a minute, but my brain apparently doesn't work like that. My voice is so croaky today. Let me know if you liked it. I don't know, should I talk more about codependency? Let me know. Let me know if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to talk about. Much love.